Hello, and welcome. This is a primer on the band Van der Graaf Generator. This is to replace the one that was lost in time. Also, it gives me a chance to look at some of the albums they've done latterly, because I don't think we covered them before. First one up, again, I'm of the mind that this isn't really a Van der Graaf Generator album. The Aerosol Grey Machine. Technically, it's a Peter Hamill solo album, but due to contractual things, it became a Van der Graaf Generator album. In my mind, it's a bit like Genesis's first album is Trespass. Van der Graaf Generator's first album is At Least We Can Do Is Wave to Each Other. But I would be remiss not talking about this, because people would say, why haven't you talked about that? But in the case of Genesis, I won't talk about that first album because a convicted paedophile will profit from it. It's not no such problem here, so we're going to talk about it. It was meant to be Peter Hamill's solo album. We have Hamill on it, obviously, Banton, Ellis and Evans, and Chris Judge Smith as well turns up, as well as Jeff Peach providing some flute on Running Back. I've got a lot of time for this. I enjoy it. You can see why it would be called a Van der Graaf Generator album. There's a lot on there, and again, there are different versions. There's the CD version's got bonus tracks, and the LP versions in a different order. You've got tracks like Octopus and Giant Squid that are on and off. So there are many different versions of it. It's really fun to listen to, because Hamill as a lyricist is almost fully formed. He just appears. The lyrics are there, and it's very, 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 very unique that something should appear just blammo. And again, the music here, you can see why they call it a Van der Graaf Generator album, because the music you hear here and the style of the music goes on to be developed on their later albums. Afterwards is a great track. Running Back, Into a Game, Aerosol Grey Machine is just a little throwaway thing. And of course, Necromancer is another standout track. Again, other versions have different tracks on, but I'm talking about like the official edition. But whatever version you get, well worth checking out. But is it essential? I don't know. It's the one you go to when you've done some of the others, when you've done like the core catalogue. This is followed by The Least We Can Do Is Wave to Each Other. Did I do the date for the previous one? The previous one was released in September 1969, by the way. So it gives you an idea of the chronology. At Least We Can Do Is Wave to Each Other is the second, or I call it the first, album, released February 1970. This is the group as we know it, featuring Hamill, David Jackson, Hugh Banton, Nick Potter on bass, and Guy Evans. Nick Potter is only on this record, and then he reappears later on. And that's one of my criticisms of the band, is I always felt that they needed a bass player. They needed to really root the music, especially when it gets heavy. You need that rumble. I know they use bass pedals and whatnot, but you know what I mean. There'll be people who disagree, and that's fine. Starts with Darkness 11:11, written on the 11th of November 1968. It's another great opener. Refugees, another great, again, it's another theme. This is a theme of displacement and not belonging. White Hammer, which is about witchcraft, I believe, and catching witches. Refugees was written for Susan Penhaligon, Mike McLean. Susan Penhaligon was a famous actress who was flatmates with Peter Hamill, and she's an interesting little bit of trivia for you. Flip it over. Whatever would Robert have said out of my book After Flood. Again, I wouldn't say it's I wouldn't say it's their greatest record, but as it's their first, it leaves an impression. And again, this is again, it's a unique band, very dark, very abrasive. This isn't your standard, this isn't your standard rock and roll, even your standard prog. This comes from a much darker place. And again, it's music you really have to work on to love. And I remember when I first got into them, it was a hard slog. This is followed by H2E, Who Am the Only One, 20th of December 1970. So there you go, they've got 2 albums out in the same year. But this one you can really hear the band, coming together. Opens with one of their killer tracks, one of their best tracks, Killer, about giant fish and eels at the bottom of the sea and stuff, and being top of the food chain. And it is absolutely, it's just epic. House with No Door, I guess again, they veer from these kind of abrasive, hard-edged songs to, this is the closest you get to ballads on here. No, it's Hamill doing Hamill, and it's very similar to his solo material. I think the Prog Police are out to get me. Followed by The Emperor in His War Room, great track. Features a guitarist, some guitarist turns up and noodles over it. Flip it over, we have Lost. I mean, I always have with the B-side. I think the A-side is so strong that I always find the B-side a little bit underwhelming. It's not saying it's bad. I just the first side is just such a strong first side for me, and I find it a little bit. We're going to sci-fi with Pioneers Over Sea. And Nick Potter appears on bass guitar on Killer and Emperor in His War Room and Lost. So he's on this one as well. Before people point out that I was completely wrong in what I said in the brain fart in the preview. You have to be very careful what we say here. Again, if you've got the bone, they did a CD reissue in 2005, and they had lots of bonus tracks. And this one had Squid 1, 2 and Octopus, which was actually recorded during the Porn Heart sessions, but found its way on here. And also a first version of The Emperor in His War Room, which is a little bit different. But yeah, an interesting debut, even though it isn't. It is. I don't. You make it. You do. You can decide. Porn Hearts comes in October 1971. Originally meant to be a double album, but it's going to be an album of songs and then an instrumental side of things. And some of those tracks were put out in the reissue that came out in 2005. This is the first one I bought. I bought this one in an actual record shop, a brand new copy, which I've still got, and it kind of knocked me sideways, because again, it's a very, very hard album, very tough album. And again, when we get to the B side, it's the old extended piece. Starts off with Lemmings, which is a great track. Oh dear, and it's so dark. The imagery was it box press my dreams, cogs breaking bones. I can't remember but the imagery in it, very dark, very dark. Followed by Man Erg, again another dark image. It's a great record. I really like it, but so hard to love if you're unfamiliar with the band. And this was my introduction. But again, very strong A side. B side, we have A Plague of Lighthouse Keepers, which is an extended piece lasting over 23 minutes, and it is very lyrically rich. lots of imagery in there. They're at the top again with this whole entire album. They're at the top of the game. This is the archetypal VDGG album. This is the in the zone. And even though it's 23 minutes long, it doesn't feel like it's 23 minutes long, and it goes to places and it goes up and down and back again, and you don't get a lot. Like I said, if you pick out the 2005 reissue, there's lots of bonus tracks and things to look out for, like a great song called W, which is a really good song, and it should have been on an album. Also their version of Theme 1, which you're probably familiar with. But yeah, so well worth investigating. In fact, probably the first one to pick up if you fancy a challenge. There's a hiatus. The band go into a hiatus, or they split. Hamill concentrates on his solo career. Then 10th of October, we have God Bluff. The band are back together again. And again, they eschew the idea of recording Son of Porn Hearts, and we have and it's an even more urgent, aggressive band. You know, tight, muscular. The music is just, totally in your face, and this is probably my second favourite of theirs after Porn Hearts. I mean, sometimes it's my favourite. I think it's such a good album. There's only 4 tracks on it: Undercover Man, Scorched Earth. Again, all these deal with topics of alienation and pretense, destruction. I mean, Arrow is just charts the course of an arrow into somebody. It's just ends with Sleepwalkers, which is an absolutely delightful song about what happens in the nighttime. What do our nocturnal adventures do we really sleepwalk? Is there a nocturnal life? And it has an amazing bossa nova refrain at one point, which is comedic, and reminds me of Come Dancing, the good version. When the amateurs used to take part. So I really like this record. It's only 4 songs, but each one of them brilliant, really good record. Then we jump up to Still Life, 15th of April 1976. 5 tracks on this one. I like bits of it, and bits of it I don't care for. And this is what we get, and the same with World Record for that matter. Opens with Pilgrims. All right. Still Life. Again, I know. See, my problem is I know people really like them, but there's only 2 tracks on there that I really like, and the rest of them they kind of fade away. And again, we all have our favourites, but I'm not a big fan of Pilgrims or Still Life. They're okay, but I'm there for La Rosa. That is an essential track. I really like that, and the same as I like Lost and Found, which is the follow-on, which Hamill did on Over. It's the sequel, as it were. And I like that because it's the human drama, the sci-fi and the other stuff, and the darker stuff is gone, and we have La Rosa, which is it's a human story, and I really like that one. The same with My Room, Waiting for Wonderland, which is again has a delightful, almost childlike melody to it before it soars off. Really like that one, always like that one. Ends with Childlike Faith in Childhood's End. Again, it doesn't speak to me. I don't. Again, I'm at this point now where some of the VGGG stuff I really like, and some of it I'm just I'm not into. It's like, yeah, it's all right. And I know that's going to annoy a lot of people, but that's it. And then we're on to World Record, which is out in October 76. Again, 2 albums in the same year again. And this album, I really, I'm not that enamoured with. When She Comes, A Place to Survive, Masks. a little bit underwhelmed by it. Again, it's all because we've had God Bluff, and this just seems like the afterthought. This feels like it's the. No, there's nothing on this record that I really enjoy. It's sorry, I have to apologise, because I know that for some people they'll be throwing their shoes at the screen. I am not a fan of this record. I find it inconsequential. And then we jump ahead to 2nd of September 1977, and I know it's only a year later, but things have changed. Things have changed because we have dropped the generator. It's now Van der Graaf. They've got rid of Hugh Banton. Hugh Banton's jumped ship, and Graham Smith from String Driven Thing has joined up on the violin. And it's a very different. It's urgent. It's an urgent album. And Cat's Eye Yellow Fever Running is, I don't know if it was released it should have been released as a single. I know there's a video out there for it, but that gives you the sense of urgency. Yeah, it feels more like a Hamill. Again, this is the Hamill solo career tends to bleed into this stuff, and it does in places feel like it would do. He's the lyricist, he's the vocalist. But I got a lot of time for this record. I think it's really cool. I think it's got 2 titles: The Quiet Zone, The Pleasure Dome. Each side has a different title, different artwork on the front and back, just to confuse you. And yeah, they've revitalised themselves, and it's a shame there wasn't more from this band. I'm not going to. I could be lazy and say it's their punk album. It's them trying to be punk. Yeah, they're trying to be relevant. They're trying to modernise themselves, and they're looking around at the kind of new age punk kind of ethic that's going on, and you feel that in this. It's like there's a real, real gusto to the record, and I really like it. I think it's a really good one. Should we do the live album? Why not? Vital is Van der Graaf live, July 1978. And we have VDGG stuff, not just the VDGG because it's called Van der Graaf, but you also have the past. It's not just like the Van der Graaf album, you also have VDGG stuff, obviously. And the band is augmented by Charles Dickey on cello and synthesizer, and David Jackson turns up on 3 of the tracks too. So yeah, it's a good one. It's another urgent record. As a live album, I don't listen to it that often. It has Ship of Fools, which is really, really cool. Like that one. It has a reduced version of Plague of Lighthouse Keepers and The Sleepwalkers as a medley, which is again worth listening to. We have a Hamill track, Mirror Images, from PH7. And Sci-Finance as well. Again, this is where Hamill's solo career starts bleeding into it. So it's a really interesting live album, and it really does try and cover a lot of ground, And again, it's different arrangements, so it's a good one. And then we're getting onto the compilations, but we don't need to talk about those, though Time Vaults is quite interesting and worth looking at just for the opening track, The Liquidator, which I have always enjoyed and I love singing along to that one. Bear with me as I go back to the discography. So then there's a long period of Peter Hamill doing his thing, being joined by various members of Van der Graaf Generator in his solo career, and then in 2005, from out of nowhere, the band announced their return, and on the 25th of April, Present appears. And Present, again, I remember it's a double album. I remember it clearly because 2005 was pretty cool, because got to see, I never ever thought I'd see Van der Graaf Generator live, and I did. But we'll keep my powder dry for when I do re-gig again and talk about that. But the album was, it was pretty cool. Starts with Every Bloody Emperor, and again it's a real kind of dig at the Tony Blair years of our politicals times. Nutter Alert is cool. On the Beach, Abandoned Ship, these are very much, it's the band doing what they do. Is it classic VDGG? No, though I do give a nod to Every Bloody Emperor and Nutter Alert. The real problem is the second disc, where they go all improvisational, and we have 10 improvisational tracks, and it's not, I'm like, no, I'm just going to stick to the first disc with the actual songs on. But yeah, it was pretty interesting. And this sees them returning to full-time VDGG in, as well as Hamill carrying on with his solo career. Then in 2008, 17th March 2008, we have Trisector. Now, there's a reason why it's called Trisector, is because David Jackson left. Still a bit of a mystery why. Some say it was because there was a misunderstanding and different directions, but I don't think it's been explicitly explained why David Jackson quit the band, but it seems to have been, there might be a little bit of acrimony there. I don't know. I've not really found out why. But yeah, so we've got this stripped down version, and my problem now is Jackson's saxophones give the band texture and definition, and without him, I do find it a bit of a hard listen. And this one, I know everybody enjoys it, but I didn't really enjoy this one. I didn't enjoy it. I didn't enjoy it, and it's long as well. It's like 53 minutes long, so I found it a bit of a slog. Then we come back in the 14th of March 2011 with A Grounding in Numbers. This one I thought was a bit better. Tracks on here like Your Time Starts Now, Bun Show, Mr. Sands, standout tracks on this. I did do a review. There should be a proper review of this somewhere in the collection. But yeah, I thought this was a better band, and I caught them live. It's one of the last live gigs I went to, because my mum was still alive at this point, and we caught them at the Barbican, and that was I enjoyed them more in a live setting. Just the three of them. I thought that was pretty cool. Oh, and Red Baron, I enjoyed that one as well. So yeah, I like this one. But I'm going to go on. I do miss David Jackson. I'm sorry, I have to say it. 2012. Oh, it's 61 minutes of them improvising. That's it. That's all I've got to say. It's a hard one. It's a hard one to get into. It's nah, didn't like it. Didn't like it. Didn't like it. We have a live album, Merlin Atmos, which captures them in, I think, June 2013. It was released February 2015. And you see they do Flight in its entirety, which is probably the one reason to pick it up, because I think it was like the first time since those days that it was done again. And also we have A Plague of Lighthouse Keepers as well, so there's a lot going on there. And GOG from In Camera, so there's some interesting pieces. There's also a second disc. I don't know if I've heard the second disc. I'd have to look. Is that the one I've got? I don't know. Oh, I can't see. Let me see. Did I? Oh yeah, I've got this. I've got the 2-disc version. I must have heard it. I have no memory. It's a live album. I'm not paying attention, but yeah, if you do get the live album, the 2-disc edition, you get even more stuff like Interference Patterns and Scorched Earth and Man Erg. But again, in this 3-man edition, so again, different arrangements. Could be worth your time. 2016 comes along. It's the 30th of September 2016, and Do Not Disturb is, well, again, even at the time they're saying it's the last Van der Graaf Generator album, which, you know, that's a bit of a bleak thing. And again, it's very it's a reflective album. It's them kind of reflecting back on themselves. It didn't do anything for me. I think because somebody said it's the last album, you know, you would just think, oh no, it's not. Is it the weight of expectation? I don't know what it is, but I don't know. I felt like a lot of the anger had gone. You know, VDGG is a snarl. It's a fire in the belly, and this is when they start getting a bit nostalgic, it's like, whoa, this isn't Van der Graaf Generator, you know. But I'm just being critical. I know a lot of people liked it. A lot of people enjoyed it. I thought it was a bit rough around the edges. I thought, again, I didn't like. Also, what I didn't like is they released this on vinyl, and I picked up the vinyl, and there's a few tracks missing from the compared to the CD edition, which I thought I was getting stiffed on, and I don't think there was a download card either. So that's another reason why I didn't like it, because they should have released it as a double, but no, we're dropping a couple of the tracks, so that instantly kind of affects your appreciation of the record, doesn't it? So yeah, that is Van der Graaf Generator. So what do you need to hear? What do you need to hear? Well, you need to hear Porn Hearts, obviously. You need to hear God Bluff. And I'm also going to put in there Quiet Zone, The Pleasure Dome. And just because it was a comeback present as an outlier. And then the other ones you can pick off as you may, but those are the essential ones. Porn Hearts, God Bluff, Quiet Zone, Pleasure Dome, and Present, just because it's them as the comeback. It's just the novelty value of it for that. Thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this. Please tell me what your favourite Van der Graaf Generator or Van der Graaf album is in the comments below. So, engagement, whatever that means. And thank you for watching. If you have any suggestions for primers, please leave them in the comments box below. Thank you for watching. My name's been Darren Locke. I've been talking about Van der Graaf Generator. Thank you for watching. There's only one more thing to say, and that is prog on.